Janitorial Manager presents the Business of Cleaning podcast, the podcast that brings you the information you need to be successful in the cleaning industry. The Business of Cleaning podcast provides in-depth interviews with successful personalities from the commercial cleaning industry, as well as discussing the trending topics that matter to you and your organization. Welcome into the Business of Cleaning podcast, your number one source for information on the commercial cleaning industry. We release new episodes monthly, live from the Janitorial Manager studio located in Toledo, Ohio. I'm Tim Clagg, the Marketing Communications Specialist here at Janitorial Manager and your host of the Business of Cleaning podcast. This month, we are ecstatic to introduce to you Mario Kelly, owner of Believe 313 Cleaning and Believe 313 Staffing. Welcome to the show, Mario.
Oh, man, it is a blessing to be here. I appreciate you guys, man. And like I always say, man, you have the perfect radio voice.
We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but this is all about you, my friend. Mario, your story might be one of the best that we've heard and had on the show. I'm excited to bring it to our listeners, and a lot of it started with $27 in your pocket. That's when 313 Cleaning started. But before we get to that, we're going to go back and talk about where you grew up, East Side in Detroit. And of course, where we grow up shapes us and has a big influence on us, you know, from the community, the people, the village around us. You grew up in the 313 in Detroit. When you look back now, how has Detroit helped shape you into the person that you are in 2025?
Oh, man, I appreciate that introduction. How has Detroit shaped me into the person I am? It's just that hustle, that grit, that never give up attitude, always trying to take advantage of the inches around you. But Detroit has shaped me into this forward-thinking person to always try to see what's the next best thing, how to get yourself out of a hole, get your back out of a corner rather. But it's just really that natural born hustle and that grit.
In pride as well. You are the fifth generation Detroiter. What does that mean to you? That's a long lineage of family, history, tradition in Detroit.
Oh, man, I feel like I am Detroit. It's even inside of the name of my company, which is Believe 313. I believe Detroit, in all aspects, and just not cleaning. The political side, I'm involved with the new candidate that's running for mayor. I started something called Stop Littering in Detroit because I feel like in order for our city to get the recognition that it needs, we have to clean it up. So I am Detroit, man. I bleed it in and out.
And of course, growing up with such passion for your area, it prepares you for adversity. And you have seen your fair share of adversity. I want to go ahead and step in the summer of 2016. Your world changed as you knew it drastically. You were about to get married when the change happened. What kind of took place there? You were left in between a rock and a hard place with just a little bit of cash in your hand.
Yeah, honestly, the summer of 2016, we had a wedding reception and everything in Puerto Rico. I assumed that this was just about to be the beginning of my life, with a woman that I felt like I was in love with. A few months later, her mother ended up passing away, God rest her soul, from cancer. She ended up getting a life insurance policy. She was a beneficiary for it, over $200,000. At that time, I had brought her all these different ideas. Let's start a rubber band company. She said, "Oh, no, I don't want to do that." I used to cook egg rolls, all different types of egg rolls. I said, "Let's start an egg roll boutique like Subway." She's like, "I don't want to do that. It's too hot in the kitchen. Let's start a cleaning company." She's like, "I don't want to clean toilets and stuff like that." I said, "Okay, well, we'll figure something out." I come home after about 2 weeks after she got the money, to an empty house. a Dear John letter,
Mm.
$1,500, And I let that sit in your mind for a second, the listeners, because honestly, when you hear someone says that your wife has over 200,000, she gives you not 100,000, not 10,000, but $1,500. A lot of negative stuff goes through your mind. A lot of everything that they're thinking of as far as the listeners, it went through my mind. But the one thing that stuck out was on that letter, it said, believe in yourself. And at that particular time, I had to say, what would Jesus do right now? Because the devil telling me to do everything
Yeah.
wrong. But what would Jesus do? And then that's where the rubber bands came from.
And so this was a kind of an interesting 48 hours where you kind of had an epiphany. During our conversation, you said, I had to get out, right? I wasn't going to stay here in where you were living. And
Yeah.
plus, you only had really money for that next month. So
Yes.
you went for 48 hours to your friend's house. And
Yeah.
the thing that stuck out in my head was you said, you're sitting there for 48 hours straight. He played one song on repeat, and that just stuck with you. And you're like, man, I can't do this. I have got to get out of here.
Yes. My friend, good friend of mine, at a particular time, he was having a drinking problem. And he literally played one song, Gucci Man, I Get the Bag, for
Oh, okay.
48 hours straight on repeat. And the song is maybe 3 minutes, 4 minutes long.
Yeah.
So imagine how many times he's playing it within an hour. So that was driving me crazy, let alone having this over my head,
Hmm.
with me just having this little bit of money out of this situation where I think that we're about to be together for life. So I had a lot of different things weighing and pulling on me. So I had to just get out. A lot of people say, well, why you ain't go get an apartment? I couldn't. I mean, because I only had enough money, just like you said, for that month.
And so this is where you were left homeless for a while
Yes.
and sleeping in your van. And you kind of did this as some motivation, which I thought was great. Kind of parked in a suburban area. I think the homes were over 250, $260,000, just something you could see to say, this is what I'm working towards.
Yes.
And you took that last $1,500 and you put it into bracelets, as you mentioned. I believe you said you paid that right there, 3 cents per bracelet on a website. You ended up making $17,000. But more importantly, it was here where you discovered your brand, Believe 313. Take us through that process, the story behind locating and starting the brand then back in 2016 area.
After I left from his house, I had that 1,500. Like I said, I had to figure out what would Jesus do. And if I thought about the bracelets, I used to always say, well, I can make a t-shirt, I can make a hat, but rubber bands, people don't take off. They have these on for countless days. A person
Oh
will wear
yeah.
a shirt one day, fold it up, put it in the drawer. He may not wear it again. But a rubber band, and it can remind you, it's a daily reminder to believe in yourself, believe in your goals, believe in your dreams. So I went to a website. Um, I don't know if I can say it on here. Went to a website and they had bracelets for rubber bands for 3 cents. I ordered 300 rubber bands. I went downtown. And when you order 300, they give you 100 for free. So my goal was to pass out the 100, just to anybody, just for free marketing. I passed those out and I started just going up to people downtown Detroit saying, hey, do you believe in yourself? They said, yeah, yeah. I said, okay, huh. Give me a rubber and make a donation. Do you believe in the Detroit Tigers? Do you believe in the Detroit Lions? They say, yeah, most definitely. Because at this time, the Lions and Tigers and Pistons were
Oh yeah.
terrible.
Terrible.
I mean,
As
if we
Charles
can,
Barkley would say, terrible.
terrible. If we can get a first down, that would be good. So, um, I will go up to people downtown and just tell them, hey, you believe in yourself? You believe in this? You believe in that? And they'll say, yeah, 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 most definitely. Can you make a donation? Also, at this particular time, I'm starting to learn about something called manifestation. So I'm from the east side, like you said. There's a suburban complex in the city of Detroit called Rosedale Park. I would drive to Rosedale Park every day, find a different house, and say, this is my house. This is the area I want to live in. I'm manifesting that this is the area that I want to reside in. There's no abandoned houses on these, and it's actually subdivision. My kids can walk to the store without having any issues, and different things like that.
Mhm.
So I would go over there every day, find a different house to stay in front of, go to LA Fitness, take me a shower, go downtown, sell rubber bands.
And that manifestation continued and developed. One day you're walking, there's a house that you'd seen that wasn't attractive to the ordinary eye,
Yeah.
but it caught yours. And so you bought it for 6,500. This is around 2017, right? And
Yeah.
people thought it was a disaster. The owner even said to yourself, Mario, you're crazy, man.
Yeah, you don't want
So,
this.
what made you see the beauty when everybody else, said, "What are you looking at? What am I missing here?"
Sometimes, beauty is within the eye of the beholder.
Hmm.
My whole goal was to get a foundation. Like I said, by this time I had found a house. I had already saved up 17,000. So I could have went and got an apartment and been paying monthly rent. But that's not what I was looking for. I was looking for a stable foundation for myself to be able to grow from. So I was riding around Rosedale Park one day and I seen the police giving this house tickets. And here they call it abandonment tickets, where the grass get too high,
Yeah.
the house is not being taken care of, they can write monthly tickets. I got out, talked to the police officer. He didn't know what was going on. He said, "Hey, we've been writing him tickets for 2 years." I took one of the most recent tickets, went straight down to the city county building, pulled the deed on it, found out who owned the house, found the old gentleman on Facebook, went to him, and like you said, he tried to talk me out of it. He was like, "You don't want
Wow.
this house. The water bill is up high. It's back taxes. The basement is flooding. There's a hole in the roof." He just gave me every con that you could, according to this house. And I said, "I don't care. I will take it." So he asked me, he said, "Well, give me 6,500." I went to my spare tire, got him a cashier's check, gave him the money, and went straight to the house, cleaned the house out.
Right.
Then I tarped all of the rooms and stuff off. And some of the money I had, I used some gentlemen's come in and fixed the bathroom. And I just lived in one bedroom. And then I just worked on it room by room.
And you're doing all this on your own time, your own dime, no help, nobody outside helping you out.
Certain things, like I would get an electrician, I got a plumber.
Right.
When it came to like just cleaning up, painting, putting the floors in, all of that stuff, that was all me. I just YouTube University.
Yeah, absolutely. It is the biggest resource any of us can have. And during this time, too, how are you adapting? How are you thinking of your long-term goals? Because you're starting to make things happen, right? First the bracelets, now this home. So the wheels are starting to get in motion here. So how are you continuing every day to say, my long-term goals are just right here, not that far out of reach?
Oh man, I was ecstatic once I got the home. Now I can give me an air mattress and lay my feet out and toss and turn. I didn't have to worry about that van and being so cramped. And that was the foundation of whatever I wanted to do. If it was going to, because my goal was the Believe 313 logo was going to be one of the top merch in the state, in the country, because at this time, Detroit versus everybody,
Yeah.
everywhere. So I'll say, okay, well, I can piggyback off of that with Detroit versus everybody and come with a Believe in Detroit. So I'm still doing rubber bands, and the money, instead of just saving all the money, I'm having to put it into the house room by room. I
Right.
went to my kid's mother and asked her just to give me a couple years to get myself together. And I would go eat the kids on the weekend, go to my mother's house and stuff like that. But this is more so like just the foundation of me catapulting to do whatever I could do. So from the braces became shirts. It was a group here called the Detroit Youth Choir.
Hmm.
The Detroit Youth Choir was on America's Got Talent during this time. And they reached out to me and said they wanted to get some t-shirts. I couldn't get them to them in LA. So once they came back to the city of Detroit, they wore the shirts at their parade and it just like took off.
And they finished second that year in America's Got Talent, by the way.
Yes, they finished second. I can't remember. I think that one gentleman may have been blind or something who finished first, but they did finish second. But the city raised $1 million for them,
Wow.
and it was just like one of the best times ever for the city of Detroit at that particular time. So now I got rubber bands, now I got t-shirts selling, and the houses. I done got the other bedroom together. I done got the kitchen and the living room. So now it's just like like small maintenance about putting chandeliers and light fixtures and fixing broken windows and working on the garage at this particular time.
And you're organizing a trip with the group, the choir, yourself, to go take a tour through Shinola here. The tour, you organized all this. Your vision original, there it is. I've actually just been looking at a few myself, updating and getting a new watch. But you're organizing this trip, this meet and greet, and also too, looking at making things happen for yourself. And of course, opportunity early in this tour presents itself when the tour guide said, apologize for a room that was pretty messy. Said, I apologize. Our cleaners, we've been having issues with them. And aha, light bulb, I've
Yes.
got a cleaning company. And all opportunities sometimes start from just taking a little white lie, taking that leap of faith. At that time, you didn't have a cleaning company, did you?
Oh no. So to go back a little bit further, there's a gentleman here in Detroit named Dan Gilbert.
Yeah.
Uh, he owns the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yep.
He owns Rocket Mortgage. But he has a book called 19 Isms. So during my time of living in the van, I ran across a book called 19 Isms, and I just took on this mindset. These are 19 different phrases and words that he lives by. And one of them was take advantage of the inches around you. So when we're on this tour with the Detroit Youth Choir, myself, like you said, we went into a room and the tour host was like, "Oh, cleaning company is terrible. I apologize. We have to clean up after them." First thing that comes to my mind is take advantage of the inches around you.
Absolutely.
I have a cleaning company. And she said, "Oh, you do?" I said, "Yes, yes, I do." But and in all actuality, like you say, it was a little white lie, but I've been cleaning since I was about
Right.
7, 8 years old. I come up in an era where, Tuesday is bathrooms, Wednesday is
Mm-hmm.
living rooms, Thursday is kitchen. And the way my mother worked is if she gets home off work at 12:30 at night from working a 10-hour shift and your chores ain't done, oh, you're gonna get that
You
butt.
get woke up.
Yeah, you're gonna get woke
Yeah.
up. Say that. You're gonna get woke up and it ain't gonna be nice. And then she's gonna make you do your job right then and there. So, and we talking about cleaning floorboards, cleaning walls on Sundays. So I've always been a cleaner. Um, so the next thing they asked me was, "Hey, give us a proposal on this cleaning job that we have." I didn't know anything about writing proposals for
Yeah.
corporate contracts or, you know, workman's comp and insurance and supplies and have to factor all of that in. I didn't know anything about this. My first thought was go straight to YouTube. Let's go to YouTube. Let's go to Google. Let's figure out the pricing and how to do the markup for that. And what I was seeing was like unbelievable to me. I didn't believe that companies were out here paying this much for cleaning.
And then you're putting this together. You took a shot, you hit the game winner, putting your research together, and you're about ready to put a bid. But like all of us do, you have a talented mentor who said, now, wait a minute, Mario. Why don't you look at the foil and see what the prior company who has the contract, what they proposed versus what you're proposing? And aha, you kind of got some idea there. How much did that help you at that point to not submit that original proposal during that time?
Well, honestly, whoever is listening to this or listening or watching this podcast, or if you're listening to it on your phone, I'm gonna give you guys one of the biggest cheat codes ever, and that's having a mentor. It pays to have someone who has walked down that road, been through that journey before, and that really helped me out. That really changed my life by contacting my mentor because I had decided to say, "Hey, I'm going to charge them $6,500 for this cleaning job." Um, and I was happy with that. So I went to tell my mentor far as on a situation like he should be happy for me. This is what it is. He said, no, send them a FOIA,
Hmm.
Freedom of Information Act, and see what the previous company was higher, was paying, was getting paid. I'm sorry. I did that, but I still was happy. I still wanted to submit my $6,500 contract. So once I went to the meeting, they slid me the contract from the former company, and it was three times the amount. It was 18,000.
Hmm.
So I said, oh, excuse my language, but I'll say, hey, I instantly,
Right.
I'll tell you the truth. Listen, this is a true story. As soon as I opened it up and I synced the numbers, I instantly got gas. Like my stomach just turned over. Like,
Oh man, I left this on the table, right?
yeah, I told him I left this on the table. I mean, I was gonna come back and I was coming to tell you guys that I didn't want to submit my offer. I wasn't ready for it yet. I needed a couple more days. So I took that offer, went home, and just negotiated with myself. Took a few $1,000s off, put myself on probation, and the rest is history.
But then you found before submitting that contract, this is when the business actually really took off through Facebook advertising, cleaning churches, starting to clean some homes. This is where you turn that $27
Yes.
into a nice $4,500 in just like that, a couple of days.
Yeah. So I was able to submit that, and like this is when I had the walkthrough, it was like around 2019 of COVID.
Yeah.
That's when COVID was just really starting. So October 2019. So I didn't hear back from him for November, December, January. So what I ended up doing was diving into the CDC, learning about everything that every chemical that killed every bacteria, virus, germ, whatever it may be. I learned about it. And I would send emails to Shinola saying, hey,
Hmm.
if you know someone, your cleaning company should be doing this, your cleaning company should be doing that. Um, I would just send constant emails, at least two a week. I would send emails. But at the same time, I would also be on Facebook promoting um, what what I've learned about far as the chemicals and what they should be cleaning and different things like this. And I'm still broke at this time. You know, COVID is
Hmm.
not I'm not able to go downtown to sell any rubber bands. That's had taken a complete stop. The shirts aren't selling anymore. So I would market on Facebook, Instagram, and a church hit me up around now we're into like February, end of February,
Yeah.
March. A church hits me up and say, hey, can you come clean our church? Because we all know that churches have to live off their
Congregation.
in a congregation and
Absolutely.
tithes. I said, most definitely, I'll come do a walkthrough. Once again, I still don't know how to price it. But in my mind, I'm like, hey, I'll charge them $1,500 after I do the walkthrough. I'm doing the walkthrough. I'm acting like I'm pricing
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. This and that. You got three bathrooms, you got floorboards, you got this, you got uh click lock. So I told her, hey, what about 1,500? She said, can you come tomorrow? My mind was like, she went for
Yeah.
it. She went for it. I ended up taking this job. I had $7. I borrowed $20 from one of my friends, and I went and got $27 worth of cleaning products. Um, we took those $27 because it was all we had. I had a fogger already, and it was just the chemicals that I had to put
Hmm.
into the fogger. So I went in there, we fogged it all out, wiped the knobs, the door handles, cleaned the glass, cleaned the pews, cleaned everything that we're supposed to clean, all the everything behind anything that was in that church got clean. Halfway through that job, they recommended me for another job.
So now the floodgates have started to open up.
Yes. So halfway through the second job, they recommended me for a third job. So you're talking about within 5, 6 days, I made $4,500 off of $27. And I said I will never do anything else in life outside of cleaning.
And so also too, like you said, you're reading everything the CDC put out. You're giving those tips, to Shinola. Were you a little worried at some point? Hey, I'm giving this information. What's to say they're not going to say, "Hey, well, why aren't you guys doing this?" to the company that was doing it? Were you a little hesitant about that at all?
No, because I felt like God, this was God's story. He was driving the car, I'm in the passenger seat, and I knew for a fact that if
Yeah.
the previous company were not taking the initiative to look these things up and also let them know what they're doing and what supplies they should be using, I didn't think Chanel was going to go to them and say, hey, you should be using this. We have another cleaning company that says you should be using this. I just always felt like they were going to say, we're going to go with the experienced company.
Hmm.
And now we're not going to take the information from the experienced company and give it to the inexperienced company.
So before you actually get the contract for Shinola, you get a contract pretty sizable up in Detroit with Ford Motor Company. Um, what were the most important things that going through that process, right? You're doing churches, you're on Angela's Facebook, and now all of a sudden, I've got a huge facility. What could you recommend to listeners out there that may be on the cusp of getting that big contract? What can you recommend to people landing that first big contract?
Don't be afraid of the square footage. Um, if you think about it, this contract with Ford Motor Company was 380,000 square feet. Um, but we're not cleaning all 380.
Right.
We're cleaning the bathrooms, we're cleaning the offices, we're cleaning the workstations. So focus on the job that you're supposed to do, not the size, not the square footage of the whole building, because it can be, overwhelming if you let it.
Hmm.
And also go in there with some confidence. Have a pre-plan, far as systems is really the main thing. Get and incorporate systems into your job. If it's invoicing, you should be using an invoice system. You should be using a timekeeping system. You should also be using a GPS system that's connected to your timekeeping system for your employees who are checking in and out. So you can know when they're there, and then also when you're training, one thing I had mistakes I was making early on this job was I was under training the people. I was telling them, oh man, all you got to do is just do the bathrooms, do this and do that. No, we overtrain now, so they expect the most.
Yeah.
So when something comes up, they don't want to say, "Oh man, you didn't tell me about that. You didn't say you just told me I had to do bathrooms, floors on Mondays, garbage every day." But we have to go over and beyond. Some days we're
Mhm.
cleaning walls. Some days we're buffing and polishing floors. So you want to overtrain. So whenever it comes to place, they're not expecting like, "Oh, this is just I can't do this."
We're talking with Mario Kelly, owner of Believe 313 Cleaning in Detroit, and his story going from being homeless to now a success story and the hard work and multi-million dollar owner. And do you remember you're still waiting for Shinola? You got the Ford motor contract. Do you remember the exact moment where you were at when they finally called you and said, "Hey, Mario, we're ready to take that leap and go with you"?
I was at home, and I lived next door to a church. Um, so when they contacted me and told me, man, I literally ran out the side door, ran to the church, and prayed, and just told God, "Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm gonna be here forever." Um, yeah. So I mean, that was a huge moment. Even though I already had the Ford Motor Company and was doing things as far as like churches and homes
Mhm.
every day, I really wanted that Shinola contract because I feel like they're the forefathers of Detroit. They were one of the first headquarters to come back into the city. 2013, when we're going through bankruptcy, or there's nothing really here in the city of Detroit. So I always look at them as a cornerstone for Detroit.
And we're going to go back to community here because you have been able to give back to your community tenfold in Detroit, utilizing over 8,000 subcontractors, and this is the really awesome part here. Over 2,000 returning citizens. How important has it been for you to be able to really give back to that community that helped raise you and help shape you as an individual?
And I truly believe that God blessed me to be a blessing. Where I grew up at, like I said, I've never been to prison, but everybody around me, family members, friends, neighbors, at some sort of time they're going to prison growing up. And then I also felt like, everybody deserves a second chance, so that's one of my biggest biggest things is giving everybody a second chance, regardless of what you did and how you got to this point where you're at right now.
Mhm.
And when you come to me, I'm you have a clean slate. I tell everybody when I hire you, I give you a piece of rope so you can hang yourself because I don't judge you for anything that you've done in the past, any, color, creed, sexuality, that does not matter to me as long as you can do the job.
Now, how did the relationship start? Bringing in returning citizens. Were you putting your name out there? Were you putting your face? Were you going in the physical locations and just letting them know, hey, whenever you get out here and return and are looking for work, hit me up. I'm here. I will give you an opportunity, and we'll continue to grow together.
Yeah, a good friend of mine had just came home from prison and he told me he was in the halfway house. I didn't know what it was at that particular time. Once I hired him, I found out that at the halfway house, you can only get out of the halfway house if you have a job.
Right.
So I started going up there every Monday, talking to the inmates. I talked to the inspector of the halfway house. He allowed me to come up there every Monday, do a job fair. And then I also would put my face like on social media. Hey, we're looking for 150 people. We're looking for 175 people. Come to the job, these type of things. And yeah, I would just go up there every Monday and would just recruit people who are coming down from prison because I think the halfway house, don't quote me, I think you can make it to the halfway house if you got like a year or less time. So within that year or less time, I'm going up there every Monday because people are coming every Monday to come down to the halfway house and I would just present them with a job fair. If you want to take it, that's fine. If not, that's also fine.
And your company's continuing to flourish, continuing to grow, where you guys really thrived in this area, cleaning stadiums and arenas. You guys have pretty big contracts. I'm just going to name a few if that's okay, just to kind of, put those accolades there where you guys deserve them. Ford Field, Comerica Park, Fox Theater, Aretha Franklin Arena, NRG, Little Caesars Arena, to name a few. What
Yes.
was the first major facility that your team serviced? And with that scale, what lessons did you learn early on?
The first major one was Comerica Park. 2021 when COVID was like coming to a tail end, well, not a tail end, but they were allowing spectators back into
Hmm.
the arenas. Um, they didn't have the employees to do cleaning in the stadiums. They only had like 60 people to clean all of those stadiums you just named.
Oof.
So,
Wow.
just alone, depending on us, if it's a sellout game or whatever, 10,000 or more people is going to take 40 people. The first lesson that I learned was to, you have to work just as hard as your employees. Some people call it undercover boss, but I see that I get the most respect when I'm out there working with my employees.
And you're up against the clock here too, because let's be honest. I mean, we've got a smaller venue down here at the Huntington in Toledo, but a lot of time you've got quick turnaround. You could have a monster jam and then a hockey game in the arena the next night.
Yeah, I mean, even I can even give you anything something different. You can have a 7 game stretch for the Detroit Tigers where they're playing a 7 o'clock game on Monday, and then on Tuesday they have a 5 p.m.
Oh,
game. So, we have to make sure that the arena is spick and span. So once they come in, because they
hmm.
have a 5 o'clock game, that means that you got people coming in, as far as players, no later than 12 o'clock.
Oh yeah.
You got staff coming in at 8 a.m.
How do the cleaning needs differ from event to event? We're talking about athletics right now, from concerts to sporting events to special events. How do the needs differ between all of those?
I can tell you one thing, country music is one of the clean they're going to clean up after themselves. So You don't have to worry about that. But sporting events like baseball, peanuts and baseball go together. So there's going to be maybe 500 pounds of peanut shells
Mm,
in a baseball game. A concert venue, depending on if it's rap, R&B, if it's a rap concert, uh, I hate to say it, but here you're going to find a lot of marijuana and blunt fillings. And also, one thing with the rap concerts is you're going to find some dollars. Sometimes your song come on and they get to throwing money and
yeah.
stuff. Yeah. But they do differ a lot. The one that I will say, which is maybe crazy, is Ford Field may be the easiest to clean because people put their stuff in the cup holders before they leave. They don't really leave their stuff on the floor.
Hmm.
Trash, they'll put it in their cups outside of like nacho trays and different things like that. But Ford Field is really the easiest to clean.
What role for this capacity does technology, specialized equipment play in the efficiency servicing such as these large spaces?
Technology plays a huge role as far as equipment. One of the first things is I don't know, leaf blowers are a major part of cleaning up Comerica Park because without that, you'll be sweeping, like I said, 700 pounds of peanut shells. So we have people at the end of the night come down and blow all the peanut shells down. Now we have the Zamboni machines, which you cannot live without because there's so much beer in the concourse, spills and
Yeah.
different things like that. If we don't have a Zamboni machine, you'll literally be like walking on glue
Mm.
after all of the games with the steals and the spills and different things like that.
Can you walk us through the timeline of when you guys start? How long does it typically take? And do you have checkpoints like, hey, 4 hours in, we need to be here? Or is there any critical checkpoints that
Yes.
you guys have when you're cleaning these stadiums?
So I'm gonna walk you through Ford Field because it's the biggest one. The first job is called pickers. So Ford Field, we'll have to have at least 125 people to work. So we'll have 40 on one side, 40 on the other side, and everybody gets two rows. I'll get the row that I'm standing in and the row above me. And I have to get all the trash, the big trash out of the aisles. And they're walking together. They'll start like on one end back to back, and then they'll walk around and meet each other on the other end of the
Hmm.
concourse. So their job is called pickers. They're walking through the seats, the aisles, picking all the trash up, the cups, and then we have to separate it because this is a green building. So any type of recyclables have to go in one bag, trash goes in another. Um, the next thing is once they're done with their bag, instead of having them run from that aisle to the top of the concourse, we have something called a trash runner. These are mostly young men between the ages of 18 to about 24, 25, or someone who wants to get in shape. He stands at the top of the concourse. He waits for that person in that aisle to tie the bag up and put it in the aisle. He's running down, getting those bags, and he's running back upstairs. The second job is the trash runner. He walks around with a gondola and he's picking up all the trash, the recyclables, he's checking the cardboard, the trash out the bathroom, and then also the bags that come to the top. Now that job right there between the picker, the trash runner, and the gondola guy, at the most at Ford Field, it should not take no more than 4 hours. If it's a
Hmm.
4 hour, that means it was a sellout playoff game,
Right.
standing room only. That should be no more than 4 hours. After and then I'm talking about the first level, second level, and the third level because there's three levels.
Right.
So that should take about 4 hours. The second job is the leaf blowers. Now, any of the trash that the pickers didn't come and get, the leaf blowers are coming through there, and we have them like on an angle, and they're just blowing all the trash down to the first row.
Hmm.
Once they blow it down to the first row, we have a few ladies. That should take maybe, like I said, also 2 hours, 2.5 hours, to say 3 hours. After that, we'll have a group of ladies come in and sweep up all the trash that they blew down to the first floor, first level. Pick up the peanuts, straws, usually straws, peanuts, tops to water bottles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Sweep all that up. And then the last job at the same simultaneously, we have the suites. So we have a group that's doing the suites while the pickers are down there. And then that same group, we have at least one person do the glass. Now the glass is very, very, you have to make sure the glass is clean because you have people who are paying
Big money.
$150,000 for
Yeah.
suite for a year, and they don't want to walk in there and they see water marks or squidges on the glass. So in all actuality, it's about a 10-hour job.
Wow. That's incredible. Now, one thing I'm interested in, are there any different safety compliance standards that you must follow when you're working on this big scale and the visibility of these jobs versus working in a church, working um, at Ford Motor Company? Are there any safety differences involved?
Um, Not really. Everyone has on a safety vest. Um, Now if they're doing power washing, they have to sign a release form.
Hmm.
But that may be like once a week, once every 2 weeks. But as far as just safety, we do go through a video when you get hired in of showing you what the job is. We don't let in, you can't we don't want anyone pregnant, and we're not discriminating, but it's a lot of picking up, bending
Oh
over,
yeah,
and then we
yeah.
also tell people if you're afraid of heights, you know, we'll put you in a certain area because some of those arenas they go
The
up.
steep, and they're
Yeah, they're
steep
steep,
straight
very
down.
steep. Yeah, very steep. So yeah, not really too many safety issues.
You guys are continuing to grow. I mean, not just in Detroit as far as these arenas, you're growing now across the United States. What key factors would you say that clients look for when they're selecting a cleaning partner for a high profile arena or venue?
I would say a resume in cleaning, because in stadium cleaning rather, because that was how I ended up getting NRG. NRG, Texas, you don't have to
Yeah.
recycle. So we brought that idea of recycling to NRG and just showed them, sometimes if you collect enough bottles, we're talking about maybe $6,000 to $8,000 a game in bottles.
Yeah.
Um, and just really having a consistent flow. So we also brought our wave, like I just explained, far as the pickers,
Hmm.
trash runners, they didn't have that like that prior to us bringing it to NRG. So just being able to be consistent in a resume, and then what can you bring to help this arena? And then also the main thing is, can you get the people is the main
Hmm.
thing.
And you've certainly proven and been able to do that. So now that you're continuing to expand, Mario Kelly's just one person, right? You
Yes,
can't be
sir.
teleporting. So have you had to expand? Have you had to get, if you're in Detroit and when the season starts down in Texas, have you been able, to get that right hand man or right hand woman to kind of help you out?
Yes, sir. So what I do is I look for cleaning companies that's in that area. For instance, there was a cleaning company in Houston, Texas. Me and he already had like maybe 100 Airbnbs he was cleaning. So what we ended up doing was he became the area manager for Texas. He gets a percentage of the jobs and he also
Mhm.
gets a salary. Because like you said, I can't be everywhere at once.
Right.
And then also what I'll do is I brought him to Detroit for about 2 weeks to show him how we go about everything as far as hiring, what we expect from the employees when they come to work, uniforms. And then we also showed him how it works far as the way for the 4 steps of getting the arena clean. Then he'll go back to his area. I'll go down there for about a week or two to help him with the hiring process. So for the first at least week, maybe 2 weeks, I'm going to be in one of those cities to really just, help out however I can. But every city has its own area manager.
Right. What's one story that you have from your stadium work that stands out, especially as a rewarding or memorable moment for you?
Oh man, I got a lot of stories. One gentleman had did like a lot of time in jail, and he um he got to work in the stadium. He said he never, when he left and went to jail, there was no stadiums in the city of Detroit.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, so he was just amazed at how, the lights and, he's always watching this from the TV. He's like the lights and different things like that. So, I'm up there and I see him just staring into the stars, like, what's wrong? He like, man, I just appreciate you. I just love you so much, man. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come here and work. Also was another one I have. Like I say, I like to work with my employees. So this one
Mm-hmm.
particular day, I went in like an undercover boss. I had my mask on, had my hat on, and a lady was just talking to someone else about how if she didn't have this job, she didn't even know who I was. So she was like, "This, if I didn't have this job, I was about to get put out. This was about to happen, that was about to happen," and that really touched me. So what we ended up doing was giving her extra $1,000 on her check, and
Wow.
we didn't even tell her what it. We just gave her $1,000 on her check, and she looked at it and was like, she was still being honest. Like, my check is over. I don't supposed to have
Mm-hmm.
this much. Most people would have took it and ran off with it. But so she came to us and was like, listen, this is my check should be $400. It shouldn't be 1,400.
Yeah.
So we just let her know, why it happened and how I overheard her and different stuff like that. So that was probably one of the best stories because I love helping people. I truly believe that my purpose in life is to help.
We're going to switch gears here. For those unfamiliar, can you kind of explain what a minority-owned business certification entails, and qualifies? Because it is something that is very beneficial in the cleaning industry, especially.
Yeah, yeah. If you're a new owner, any minority, it's just not about black. Any minority-owned business, Indian, a woman-owned business also. So this is a certification that you can get from their website. Minority, it may be here's Michigan minority certification. It may be Ohio minority certification, whatever your city is in, but it separates you from majority companies. Companies that hire you get a tax break, and there are a lot of grants and different
Hmm.
jobs opportunities come along with that because they say, hey, you should, DEI. When we had the DEI certification and
Hmm.
different things like that, and it pushes companies to hire minority
Right.
businesses along, just not allow the big wigs to overtake everything. So I still tell everybody to get your certification. It is a tedious process.
I was just about to ask that, what it was
It's a
like.
very, very tedious process. I would suggest that you get someone who's familiar in your area to help you with that because it's, it's a few hours worth of questions
Hmm.
and application is very long. So you should look into someone who's in your area that understands minority certification process and how allow them to help you to get to certification because it will take your business, catapult your business to another level and it separates you from people who don't have it. And just because I'm black doesn't mean that a company who hires me can get a tax break because
Right.
I'm a minority. No, I need this certification.
We've talked and spent a lot of time on Believe 313 cleaning. We talked about Believe 313 staffing. I want to talk about something that you're involved in now that is pretty awesome. Obviously, AI technology continues to just fascinate, grow, develop, and take all industries, not just the cleaning industry, but take all industries by storm. You've been working on implementing your own AI, and Emily, along with three other AI personalities across all your businesses. What is your overall goal for you as you continue to work with this process and get it to develop? Is your overall goal to have it help? How is your overall goal to help your cleaning business, especially?
Being a small business and especially starting off, so I'm speaking to some entrepreneurs who are just starting off. A lot of times we can't answer every phone call. A lot of times we're on the job doing the job, or we in the office doing something, and we have phone calls coming through that we can't answer. Also, that was one of the biggest things that I seen with the corporate level is that they call center is like a revolving door. A lot of time people at corporate level have a high abandonment rate, and then they also have a long wait time. So Emily is a call center AI agent that you can have a 10 to 40-minute conversation with. No healthcare, no training. She works 24 hours a day, 365. Um, she knows everything about your business. She can schedule appointments. She can even build out a cart if you are selling anything. And she just takes your business from 1 to 100 because now you're going to have an efficient assistant answer all your calls. And she can transfer calls because if she can't answer any of the frequently asked questions or any of the stuff that we have put into her, as far as from your website and scripts, she can transfer them to the human aspect of the company, and then you can answer the questions and just finish the sale and everything like that.
And she can handle 18 calls at a time, I believe, correct?
It's 18 calls at a time.
And I mean, I listened to a prior interview you did. You gave a demo over it, and you can't tell at all that you are talking to a robot. I mean, listening to that, it sounds very authentic. The language is conversational, and the options. It was one for I think Shinola. It was, I think you did it looking for a watch. You were using, hey, I'm going to a wedding out in Arizona, I think, or something like that. And it gave you the different options, especially with whatever outfit. Hey, I'm going to be wearing this color outfit. And it matched you with the watch. Uh, you mentioned, is this something that you want to have as a 24-hour around the clock assistance? For instance, somebody calls, believe 313, you got a customer, hey, we're having an issue here. They call and they can divert that call to you or a manager, and they can get out there and take care of that issue overnight. Is that a goal of yours?
Most definitely, that's all. That's one of the biggest goals is to be able to have a 24-hour call center assistant who can take on calls, take emergency calls. A lot of times we also, if your company is a 24-hour business, meaning that, for instance, a plumber and someone has a backup in their basement at 3:30 in the morning, who's going to take that call? So that's really the ultimate goal. And to help the government side. Right now, we're in talks with the city of Detroit to help them with a lot of their high volume call center. Who's because right now what they're doing is if you call them, if no one answers, it goes to a voicemail and they'll call you back between 24 to 48 hours,
Yeah,
which we hope. And we never know what the issue can be. A tree could have just fell on someone's house,
right.
thing like that. So that's the ultimate goal.
It was pretty cool. Just watching that. I'm curious too. You're not just limiting this, as you mentioned, to one industry. You're just hoping that you can help out wherever help's needed.
Yes, yes. I mean, anyone who takes on, and then they always ask me, what's your niche? What industry are you focusing on? I'm focusing on the telephone industry. So
Hmm.
anyone who receives calls as a business owner or as a company, we're trying to help you.
Fascinating. It's just the evolution, especially too, just looking at, my chat GPT I use on the daily and how it's grown and transformed. It
Yes.
is, it is transformative. Where do you, gosh, I don't even want to say 5 years because that's too far away. Where do you want your AI, Emily, to be? And let's cut that frame in half. Let's say a year or two.
It's crazy you say that. I just had a meeting with Shinola today and they asked me, they said, we want you to start focusing on 2-year plans. We want to know what you have planned. And this is just more so mentorship that they're giving me because, through their whole building, they have a watch dropping tomorrow, but they started working on it in 2022. And he told me, he said, man, I want you to start focusing on 2 to 3 year plans. But with Emily, like I said, we want to make sure by within a year and 2 years that she's through all of the systems, the departments in the city of Detroit. We can make the city of Detroit call system a lot more efficient, meaning that when people call, they get an automatic answer to a question.
Hmm.
Also, I would love to be teaming up with some big call center if it's um, AAA or if it's OnStar. You know, I have a meeting with a company called Minix. That's the one who takes all the calls for OnStar. You know, they may have about
Hmm.
400 employees, but their problem is that they constantly hire because you have to go through a 6 week training program. And then at the end of that 6 week training program, you still have to be able to pass the test to get hired. So they're telling me
Yeah.
that only 40% of the people are passing the test, but they've
Wow.
just paid them for 6 weeks. Where with a Emily, it can be trained within 3 weeks, fully efficient and everything, knows the business, emotional intelligence, so she's never getting thrown off. You know, like when I'm gonna call the one and give us a demo, it's for Shinola, but if I call and say, hey, I got a Rolex and I want to get the battery fixed, the emotional intelligence understands that, well, we don't fix Rolexes. And then we also understand that Rolex doesn't have batteries.
Incredible. And it's just fascinating. And your story from the beginning, as we talked about, to just seeing your ability to stick with it. It is Detroit through and through, uh, about an hour south in Toledo. And just, your ability to just persevere is excellent to just help push everyday people that are maybe, let's say, struggling with their own fight as where am I headed next in life, or what are my goals? And of course, you have a book too
Yes.
that has been making the waves, and it's you can find it on Amazon, and it's really taken off as well for you.
Yeah. As of today, you can also find it on Apple Books, Target, Walmart, wherever they're selling books at, you can type in the $27 Millionaire. It's $3.99 on Apple Books. It's $6 on Amazon. You know, if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this on a podcast, on your Apple podcast, please, please, I encourage everyone to get the book. You know, we really dove into a lot of things that happen in here inside the book, but the book gives you a complete time frame. It's a deep dive into how to grow your cleaning company, how to grow your business overall. So I don't even consider it a cleaning book. I consider it an entrepreneurship book. So whatever your business is, whatever you got going on in your life and you're trying to scale, $27 Millionaire is the book to help you scale.
Mari, the last thing I got to ask you, what has this media wave been like for you? I mean, it's a lot of interviews. I mean, I saw the interview on Detroit too, and
Yes.
actually a coworker of mine shared it with me. He said, "Hey, here's somebody you have to reach out and have on the show." What has all this attention? What has all this media meant to you?
Oh man, I truly appreciate it, man. You know, honestly, I appreciate everyone who's given me the opportunity to come onto their platform. Um, and I don't turn any interviews away because every interview, there's a different person, a different crowd, there's a different frequency who I haven't touched yet. I truly appreciate all of it, man. You don't understand how grateful I am, you know, and my ultimate goal now is that's what I'm doing. And I probably get at least two invites a week as far as to doing podcasts. Like I have one today at 4 o'clock. I have one tomorrow. I have two next week. But all of this is leading up for when we do the movie with Tyler Perry. So
I
now,
love it.
you know, so
I
now
l-
he can come back in a year or two and say, listen, Mario manifested this on the show. You know, so my ultimate guy, because I know in my mind, Tyler Perry is having writer's block. And this is the one that we're going to take to the big
it's going to get him
screen.
over the hump, right?
Yes, it's going to get
Yeah.
him over the hump. We're going to take it to the big screens. We're going to do a 70 city tour for his plays a year or two after that. You know, so my dreams and aspirations for this story is really it's really shooting to the sky.
I,
So, but
l-
it's going to take you guys though.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're glad to just play a small part in being able to, you trust us to tell your story.
Yes.
Mario, where can our listeners or people watching the video portion connect with you online if they have any additional questions or they just want to network with you?
I'm on LinkedIn at Mario Kelly. I'm on social media, Instagram and Facebook at Mario at Believe 313 Staffing. Um, Also on YouTube at Believe 313 Staffing. And my website is www.believe313staffing.com. You can always hit me up there or any of the platforms.
And he is very responsive. He is very quick to get back to you, very gracious with his time for everybody. That will complete this month's edition of the Business of Cleaning. Be sure to subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcast, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Also, be sure to leave us a 5-star review and your comments. From everyone at Janitorial Manager, our guest, Mario Kelly, I'm Tim Clegg saying so long until next time.